Hello, BookTube. I have a tag for you today, even though it's Thursday, not Tuesday. And that is not an accident. I have no shortage of stuff I want to talk to you about, so I don't need to do tags to fill out a roster of videos. No, I'm doing it on a different day in order to make a point, because I would like you all to do this tag. And the point I want to make is not tags are fun anyway. They're a wonderful, fun community thing, except for me because I'm a hated outcast, a leper, a pariah. But even I enjoy tags, and they're fun for that reason. But the point of this odd day for a tag is that they can often be important. A couple of them can be important, and there's one here that I want to do, and that I want you all to do. Not that anybody listens to me or cares, because you all hate me because I smell. But this is the BookTube Bio Tag. It's not quite the same thing as the BookTube Newbie Tag. That would work, but I'm worry that a lot of people who never got around to doing the BookTube Newbie Tag and now have 200 videos under their belt feel a little odd doing the BookTube Newbie Tag because they're not a newbie anymore. There are a lot of reflective tags like this, but I really like this one. It's nice and concise, and the thing that makes it important, it's fun, I hope, as well. I will endeavor, as always, to make the video fun. But the thing that makes it important is it underscores the fact that people are finding our channels all the time. New people are finding our channels all the time. In the last year, I have lost track of how many messages I've had from people, how many Voxer messages, especially how many emails I've had from people, and comments as well, saying, I just found your channel. And you build lore is the word that the kids use these days. You build lore as you're making videos. There's no way to avoid that. And maybe it's a natural human instinct not to feel like repeating that lore over and over again. So it helps to have a couple of way stations where people can go to learn who you are. They're liking your videos. That's the ultimate compliment anyway. That's the most important thing, is that they're letting you know, they're joining the community. But you want them to know a little bit of the bare bone outline of who you are. And this tag helps with that. And it will help with a lot of you as well, because all of you, no matter how many subscribers you have, you also are getting new people. So I would very much like it if everyone would consider doing this tag. It's the BookTube Bio Tag, and it's just a handful of questions, 10 questions. Starts off with number 1. Who are you? Share a bit about yourself as much as you feel comfortable. I had to quirk at that just a little, because I realize on BookTube that I am surrounded by absolute hordes of mewling introverts. I am not a mewling introvert, although I have befriended them in the course of my life. I like befriending introverts. I like how closely they mimic being human. But when it comes to me, well, tell us about yourself, is either an undoably big task, or it's a task that invites, an unhelpful thumbnail. I am a book critic. I'm an indefatigable book reader. And for a long time ago, I was a book critic and a book section editor for any place that would have me. I was a gun for hire. I could whip things into shape. I could fill a section. I could guarantee letters from readers. Once upon a time, in ye olden days, when every town, even a small town, had at least 2 print newspapers, editors were looking for that, and they were willing to pay. Not much, not ever much, but they were willing to pay. So I did that forever and ever, until at one point I decided that I got this weird idea that it would somehow be more honest and more genuine if, instead of writing about books and organizing the writing about books, I sold them instead. I was talking directly to the customers. Why I thought such a dumb thing, I don't know. Why I thought I couldn't do both at the same time, I don't know, but I did. So I left the world of book reviewing and book section editing and went into the world of retail bookselling at a giant retail bookseller here in the United States. And you might think, well, okay, if it was a bad idea, you clearly think it was a bad idea. You'll wise up in a couple of years, and that'll be that. But everything in Steve's world happens at a little bit of slower pace than the normal world. So I stuck with it for 25 years. I did retail bookselling for 25 years. And I don't regret much of it. I regret the last 5 years. I overstayed because retail bookselling changed, and I just was not willing to acknowledge it. We got the retail bookstore where I worked lost its manager and got a manager who was a cartoon character. She was like something out of a Nazi movie. And she came in, and I thought, all right, well, it's been 3 weeks. I'm assuming that corporate has been bombarded with complaints about this monster and that she'll be gone. No, corporate was happy with it. And I got wake-up call after wake-up call that was true, and I ignored them all. I stayed too long. But that for 20 years, it was absolute wonderful. It was just bliss. I got a lot of what I wanted. I talked to thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of customers. Handled lots of books, found out what people like to read, all that sort of stuff. A part of me the whole time was missing opining in print. A part of me was missing that. Once you get that as a reflex, you don't ever lose it. To the point where at one point I would routinely importune my friends that if you want me to write something for you, I'd be happy to do it. In other words, I missed a lot of clear warnings that I should never have left that world and should get back to it right away. The thing is, once that thought started to crystallize in my mind, I thought, and a lot of my friends said, well, that's nice, but you've been gone a long time. Nobody comes back to this world. Not like this. Not after this long, in a quarter of a century. Nobody does that. But I tried it, and I managed to do it in the two-prongs way. One was that I became one of the founding editors of an online literary journal, which, of course, did not exist when I left the world of reviewing. The internet did not exist. But since it had grown up nice and healthy, or unhealthy, depending on your viewpoint, so I helped to start an online literary journal, and that got me back into reviewing big time. It was Open Letters Monthly was the name of it. It made a splash. We started punching above our weight. The literary book chat world noticed that there was a lot of stuff being written at Open Letters Monthly that was really good. It was the kind of stuff that you expect to find in the London Review of Books or the New York Review of Books, only it wasn't there. It was for free on an online journal. Who are these people? What is this stuff? We started to get noticed. Word started to spread. We started to get blurbed on books, which is all that an old showman like me cared about. And also, it scratched an itch big time. All of a sudden, I was back to doing the thing that I loved and inexplicably left. And it turned out that it wasn't impossible to do the other prong either. It wasn't impossible to get back into the world of print reviewing for the Wall Street Journal or the Washington Post or the Christian Science Monitor, or in my case, since I'm the Virginia Creeper of the literary world, a whole bunch of other places. That wasn't impossible to do at all. So all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, after 25 years, I was back in the book chat world, big time. The one aspect of my previous life that I did not think would happen, because if it's rare for somebody to come back to book reviewing and, chalk up venues, it's unheard of for somebody to come back to being a book section editor. First of all, there aren't any book sections anymore. Those at least 2 local newspapers, they're all gone. That whole landscape changed. And I knew that. So I thought, well, I'm an editor at Open Letters Monthly. That will have to do, because print newspaper book sections don't come along. They just don't. It just doesn't happen. So they fold before anything happens to them. But years ago, one came along. Believe it or not, probably the smallest such editorship anywhere in the country. A tiny little print newspaper once a month in northern Georgia. Big Canoe News. I am the book section editor at a print newspaper. We only come out once a month, but we have a dedicated book section, 2 whole pages of writing about books, columns, reviews. So I may be the smallest chair at the table, but I am legitimately there. So unbelievably, I not only returned to the world of freelance book reviewing, and also the new world of online book reviewing, but also, unbelievably, I'm also back to being a print book section editor. So I have returned to the world that I left after a 25-year gap. And in addition to that, what you need to know about me is that despite all of that biography that I just gave you, I am, as you can see, a raven-haired 28-year-old. And the other obvious fact that you can see is that in addition to coming back to the world of print journalism and print editorship, I also thoroughly dominate the YouTube sphere by being a major YouTube influencer, a sexy YouTube influencer. So there you go. That's me in a nutshell. also dogs, dead Kennedys, mega stuffed Oreos, and what a number of you over the years have said is probably the oddest detail that you see from what one of you referred to as the forward-facing Steve, is that you're all welcome here. This business of a parasocial relationship, for me, I want you all to visit. I want you all to visit Hyde Cottage and have wine and calzones with me until the wee small hours. And people have called that strange, and a couple of people over the years have said that is the oddest detail about the forward-facing Steve. And then those people have come here to visit for wine and calzones and said, okay, I don't think there is a forward-facing Steve. I think it's just one insufferable old coot. But anyway, that's me. That's the biggest question on this tag, so don't worry about that. Then number 2, how long have you been on BookTube? 8 years. I started BookTube in 2016. Oh, so it's 9 years. I started BookTube in 2016. I watched BookTube for years before that and thought, this is great fun to do, but you couldn't possibly do it yourself. There'd be a tech barrier. Mainly, I think, because I watched a lot of videos that had edits and soundtracks and pictures up here and whatnot. And I knew perfectly well that I would not have the patience to learn how to do that. And I thought there was no alternative but to do that. Turns out there is an alternative to do that, and that is to post videos without editing and without any kind of software. That is entirely possible to do if you are accustomed to speaking. Don't worry about the occasional and ah. You're just fine without any of those bells and whistles. And once that was shown to me, I thought, okay, well, maybe it is possible for me to make a BookTube channel, and I did. So that is 2016. Is that? I mean, some of you could probably double check that, but I think it was 2016 that I made my earliest videos. I don't judge time really on the calendar. I judge it by dogs, and I had 2 dogs at the time that I made my earliest videos. My girls were old, very sedentary. They didn't really know what I was doing. They were aware. My pointer was aware that I was talking, but there was no one in the room. I was talking English, but there were no humans in the room. But they were too old to really care. And then as time went on, they got sick together, and then they started to die together. A long, slow process. They were both alive when I was making videos, and they were both not only alive but ambulatory. So I'm thinking that was a while ago, because Frida is 8, going on 9. So, but anyway, it's been a while, not a decade. I don't know what we'll do to celebrate a decade. I think the platform will be very different by the time I reach a decade. The celebration might not be in order. Question number 3 is, what kinds of books do you like to read? Has BookTube had an effect on what you read? I read the American new releases in the 15 or 16 genres that interest me. Can we give a rundown of those? I don't know if we can off the top of my head. General nonfiction. That's a pretty wide net. That covers a lot. So if word gets around, other editors, other book reviewers, that somebody's cookbook is really good, that counts as general nonfiction. General nonfiction, general fiction, usually literary fiction, historical fiction, mysteries, romance. Let me put the notebook down. Science fiction and fantasy. Science, nature, biography, history, literature and translation, debut fiction is a category that I keep apart because I like to pay attention to it. Am I leaving anything out? Reprints, any kind of high profile or low profile reprints. The reprints are always happening in the publishing world, and I'm very interested in that. So it's a lot. There's that. I'm probably leaving stuff out, but I read the American new releases in those genres, and I interlace that with a huge amount of reading of older titles, rereading of older titles, or reading of older titles that I've never got to that I find out and about when I'm shopping for used books. And that part dovetails with the second question: has BookTube had an effect on what you read? I always offhandedly say that BookTube has not affected what I read, but that only applies to the first part. I don't need any help from the rest of you on American new releases. I've been doing that for a long, long time. I love it. I absolutely love the bounds that I have set for my own reading. I absolutely love them. I don't need any help from anybody when it comes to that. There's nobody reads more new releases in the American book market than I do. That has been true for, when did we start Open Letters Monthly? 2006, 2007, something like that. So that's 15 years. Yes, 2006, 2016, 2025. Where's David Murphy when I need it? I don't know how to calculate. I don't know how to do math. But that's a long time. That's going on 20 years. And before that, I worked in a bookstore, which is a perfect place to keep in touch with American new releases. And before that, I was also getting books from publishers. So when it comes to that, BookTube has not affected what I read. But when it comes to the rest of it, the secondhand stuff, the older stuff, the rereads, BookTube does very much affect what I read. Not in any direct way. It's not... I don't know how to say any of this without sounding like the god of all fatuous morons. It isn't... well, anyway, I'm among friends. It isn't just that I don't really need your help when it comes to new releases. It's also that I've probably read more than you have. That's not a value judgment. That is not anything pontifical at all. But probably I have. So I'm not going to BookTubers to get recommendations of older titles either. Instead, something more marvelous than that. I watch BookTube for people, not for bookish content, believe it or not. I know that seems odd, but I watch for people. I get to know you as a person. I watch you read. I get to know your reading speed by how fast you finish your books. I get to learn your critical insight or evaluative powers by what you talk about those books when you're done with it. I get to learn the nature of your reading life by your enthusiasms. And I love that. Oh, God, I love that so much. That getting to know you has to happen first. But once it does, that has to happen first because I'm not one of these people that's out there asking a teenager for book recommendations, asking a weightlifter for book recommendations, asking a BroTube guy for book recommendations. They don't read. They don't read. They're either too young to have read anything or they're lunkheads who don't read. So people, I think, are desperate for book recommendations once they've made that some sort of influence or connection. I'm not desperate for book recommendations. I don't need that. So what works on me is when I get to like you, I get to know and like you as a video persona in our parasocial relationship, and then you enthuse about something. Chances are extremely good. Better with me, those chances are higher with me than literally with anyone else in the English-speaking world, that I will already have read what you're enthusing about. But your enthusiasm means so much. It will mean so much, especially if I read and dismissed what you liked. So if some booktuber out there recommends, suddenly not recommends, but their eyes are lighting up because they are reading the non-Arthurian books of Mary Stuart. This Rough Magic, that sort of thing. Touch Not the Cat. I'm thinking, okay, well, you read those as they were coming out, and you thought they were sort of by the numbers. But this booktuber's eyes are lighting up about them. Go back and reread them, and almost invariably, I will find that there's a lot there. I don't know whether it was there and I missed it, or whether or not I'm seeing it because I'm borne aloft by the enthusiasm of the person I watched it, but that is one of my favorite parts of BookTube. And that has changed what I read. That happens almost every time I go to my used bookstore. My eyes will be scanning over a bunch of books, and I will see something that, had it not been for a booktuber enthusing about it, a booktuber I know enthusing about it, I would have dismissed it completely. I wouldn't have given it a second thought. But suddenly I think, ooh, someone was just talking about this, and they really liked it. You didn't, but they really liked it. And I will get it and reread it to my profit. Whether I end up really liking it much more than I did the first time, I will still find things in it. I've lost count of how many times that has happened. Just infinitely. And it doesn't have to be great literary stuff either. It doesn't have to be anything that the booktuber in question is calling great literature. I remember one of the earliest examples of that was Mark Richardson at Richardson Reads, who has a real affection for the novels of Clive Cussler. He knows perfectly well their literary limitations. He knows that perfectly well. He's not claiming they're great literature. Just he expressed an unapologetic affection for them, and I had read them and dismissed them, I think the first 10. Sure enough, the next time I found an early Clive Cussler novel, an early Dirk Pitt novel, I reread it and thought, yeah, there's a lot more going on here. Go to a much, much more recent example. All sorts of examples, oh my God. Not so much all the endless channels loving Brandon Sanderson, but if you go on and on about how much you're loving the Travis McGee novels, I'm going to go back to them. Even though I read them and wrote about a couple of them, I'm still going to go back to them. So that part, BookTube has changed, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I love it. Let's see here. Prompt number 4 is, what do you enjoy about making BookTube videos? Well, unfortunately, you're seeing what I enjoy most about making BookTube videos. In how ridiculously engorged this tag is. Your tag does not. All of your tags, your version of this tag is going to be over at the 20-minute mark. I'm barely beginning. I'm barely halfway through. And that is one of the things I love most about making BookTube videos, is that for whatever reason, when I hit the record button, I forget the camera is there. All of a sudden, I am talking to you as though you were here in the room. I don't know what that phenomenon is. I know they're not really here in the room. Maybe there's nobody for you to scream at. I don't know what that phenomenon is. I know that a lot of people don't feel it. They're very aware of the camera, and unfortunately, it affects how they talk. Unless they're that kind of a mulish introvert on their own, probably they are. But for me, that's my favorite part, is that I'm having daily conversations with all of my imaginary BookTube friends. And then I stop the recording, far too late for some of you, and all of a sudden, we're back to just me, the bean, and the Sasquatch in the room, and that's it. But that's my favorite part, is that genuine sense of communicating. Let's see here. And then question number 5 is, what do you not enjoy about making BookTube videos? I have a pretty bare bones operation here. The number one answer that you're going to get from people who do this tag, and again, I hope you all do this tag, is the horrors of editing. But I don't edit my videos. And that's not only because I know that I would lose patience with the technical side of editing. Editing could be very easy. Somebody could make a foolproof editing program that even I would like, but they don't do it because they're all frustrated film students, like there's any other kind of film student. But it's not only that I lack the technical capability, it's that when I looked at the whole process from 30,000 feet before I'd made a single video, I realized that I don't want to associate talking with you with this incredibly long, tedious, and horrible process that comes along with it. I've heard so many booktubers say that they're in editing for 10 hours. Forget that. No, I don't want to associate any experience with making videos that is going to make me hate the idea of making videos. I don't know why anybody would do that. My answer to what I like least about BookTube videos is not that. It would be more the personal element, because the making of the videos I have stripped down to a fairly easy process. I don't trouble with it at all. Instead, it's the personal element, right? When you're a fairly sizable channel, especially when you've been around for a long time or you make a lot of content, the YouTube algorithm, the mysterious YouTube algorithm, will put that in front of people, strangers. And a lot of times strangers just don't know how to react to one of my videos. And because this is the 21st century, the fact that you don't know how to react to something is no reason why you shouldn't react to it anyway. In the pre-internet era, if you didn't know how to react to something and you reacted to it anyway, the thing that would get you is a poke on the snoot, as we used to put it. In the internet era, where everyone's anonymous and invulnerable, you can just do what you want, and if you react wrong, well, LOL. I'm sure there's a cartoon I can append. I will get comments like that, and because I leave my email on every video, some of those comments come into my inbox. Some of them are only awkward. People they're so thoroughly part of the 21st century that they don't have any sense of decorum. They don't have any sense of etiquette. So they don't have any hesitation whatsoever about simply asking a total stranger for a huge amount of free work. Some of them are clueless. I've said many, many times on this channel that if you send me a 5,000-word email, I'm going to ignore it. You might as well not hit send. Write it by all means, but you're keeping a journal. If you give me a huge thing to read, I'm not going to read it. I'm going to want to, but my mind is going to categorize it as work, for which I get paid. And I'm going to shunt it aside because it doesn't have a deadline. And so on and so forth. Also, there are drive-by a-hole comments on videos. If you've made as many videos as I have, and no one has made more, you're going to be wide open game for drive-by a-hole comments. People just, they're looking for that one little dopamine point. They don't think there's anyone there who's listening. They don't think there's anyone who can be enraged or who's feeling simply hurt. And unfortunately, there's no way to filter those comments before you read them. So I do read them. And as has been said many, many times, those comments, even though you know perfectly well they are written at peak speed, negligently by an a-hole who's never going to come back or see any fallout, those comments tend to stick with you. They can ruin an afternoon. I've heard that said many, many times, and a couple of times in the early days, it almost came true for me until I realized that would be foolish. To let those comments have any kind of power over you would be foolish. And I have the ultimate remedy for a bad afternoon. So that's what I guess what I'm trying to say for this question is that the thing that I don't enjoy about BookTube is you. And question number 3, what video on your channel are you most proud of? This kind of question comes up often. A lot of you will have answers to it, especially those of you who put a lot of work and effort and editing into your videos, but I don't. I view these videos as conversations with friends. Weird friends that I really probably wouldn't admit to in public. You're all a little strange, but friends all the same. Conversations with friends, even when the videos take the form of literal conversations with friends, where I'll talk with someone in a split screen on Zoom and upload it to YouTube. Even there, it's just a conversation with a friend. I don't think I've ever made a video that wasn't that. And since that's the way I look at videos, these questions fall afield of the mark, because you don't look back at your conversations with your friends and rank them. So I love making videos, and I love them, and I love having fun with videos. I can't say that, though, here that I'm most proud of the videos that came out well, because if I'm doing a conversation video with someone else, it's, in my mind, it's basically an interview, and I have done a lot of interviews in my life, a lot of them, with a lot worse subjects than anyone I've ever faced on YouTube. I am a giant safety net. If you do a conversational video with me, it is not going to fail. We are not going to need a script. We are not going to need edits. It's not going to fail. I'm a giant safety net. There is no one who can throw an interview with me. And most people aren't trying. I've only ever had one person who was actively trying. And I can make you regret trying. I can make it so that I can get you back involved in the interview pretty quick. But most people, no, it works just fine. And all of these videos where I'm just talking to you endlessly, I view them as conversations, so I don't rank them. So this question doesn't really work for me, which doesn't really explain why I took 15 minutes on it, but we're getting to know each other, right? You'll be able to go to this video if you are new to this channel. Let's see here. Prompt number 7, is there anything you wish were different about BookTube itself? And yeah, there are quite a few. I alluded to one just a minute ago. BookTube could make the whole process of being a BookTube creator a lot easier than they do. They easily could. There could be a very easy drag and drop edit program that did not have all the bells and whistles of you being, a teenage Scorsese. There isn't one. As far as I know, there isn't one. But I'm not talking about an external app. I'm talking about something YouTube could do, and it doesn't do that. Also, YouTube can make it very easy to drag and drop pictures right up here, so that when I'm talking about books, I can show them to you. They don't do that. You need a program to do that. You can't just drag and drop it onto the video. That would be easy to do, and they don't do it. Probably because they are in bed with the manufacturers of the apps that do that, but also because they want you to invest time and effort into this as a way of hooking you, and also as a way of hooking your readers. I know perfectly well that more visually pleasing and better edited channels get better views. And all of that feeds into another thing I don't like about BookTube, which is the all-powerful algorithm, which is constantly pushing not only faker content, incredibly insincere content. I'm not saying that if you edit your videos or put pictures in, you are insincere, but that opens the door to insincerity in a way that not doing any of those things does not. But also, the algorithm pushes you to be blatantly insincere, to lie like crazy, to warp what you do, to start saying SA or unalive, to do all sorts of behaviors that the algorithm has trained you to do in order to please the algorithm, a thing you didn't know that existed before you encountered YouTube. Why should you want to please it? Why should anybody want to please it? Why should anybody want to feed it? And yet, there are plenty of people on YouTube, even on BookTube, who allow the algorithm that they've never seen, they don't know what it wants and doesn't want, they're guessing. But they allow the algorithm to dictate not only the nature of their content and the length of their videos, but when they make them and when they upload them. Ugh, disgusting. And BookTube does that. It creates this environment where it wants you to be that way. Well, that's gross. So that's one thing. Another thing that I hate also, of course, any concession to book talk, any concession to either the commodification of the idea of being a reader instead of being a reader, or to non-existent attention spans. Anything that accedes to any of that, I hate. So a thing that BookTube is pushing relentlessly is BookTube Shorts. I hate them. Of course I hate them. What can be done in a short that's of any value at all? Nothing. And that's okay from BookTube's point of view, YouTube's point of view, because they don't want shorts to have value. And they want to train you not to want your shorts to have value. They want your short to go viral. And they're training you to want your short to go viral. There's nothing I can say about, the brothers Karamazov in a YouTube short, but I might be able to do something, some wacky antic that would go viral. And I want to go viral. Why? Because the algorithm wants me to. And I care what the algorithm wants. Why? Well, you see what I mean. I can't stand the number one thing that I hate about BookTube is that it wants to make people into bots. It's not alone in that. Every platform wants to do that, but I hate it anyway. So let's move on to prompt number 8. Name 3 books you've reviewed on your channel that you feel represent who you are as a reader. There are probably 3,000 books that I've talked about on my channel that reflect who I am as a reader, but I have yet to do a book review on this channel. Something about the personal history that I gave you at the beginning of this tag probably informs that. I think of book reviews as something written for an audience, not something spoken. It feels awkward to me, and I might have been able to get over how awkward it felt, except again, no insult intended here. But book reviews are not exactly a strong point on a channel, on a platform ironically called BookTube. Book reviews are not exactly a strong point. If you make a video about, the latest quart of beans and asparagus or whatever, and you call that video a book review, and I click on it, as I innocently did 9 years ago when I was encountering BookTube for the first time, and you say, well, this book, I don't know. I mean, I can't even with it. I mean, do you guys know what I'm saying? Haven't identified the book, haven't identified the author, haven't told me anything about it, haven't given me any critical responses at all. Just you and your spleen, just you and your lymph nodes. I just can't even with this book. I mean, am I right or am I right? If I encounter thousands of videos like that, all calling themselves book reviews, naturally I'm not going to be inclined to make a book review. I'm not inclined at all to make a book review on BookTube, so I cannot answer this question. That's why I'm doing well. Let's move on. Question number 9. Name 3 booktubers whose content inspires you. Again, I'm not trying to be trouble here, but nobody's content on BookTube inspires me. There are booktubers that I love. I almost when I read this question originally, I almost put it out Daniel Green, but he's been in the news enough this week without me needing to drag his name into a video. And really, it's not. Inspire isn't the right word. I guess maybe originally inspire would be the right word in terms of inspiring me to get in and start sharing the fun. There are a whole bunch of channels, most of which are not around anymore, that I watched that definitely felt that way, where you look like you're having so much fun that you're making me want to join. But I would have wanted to join anyway. I thought the main bar was not that there wasn't anybody encouraging me to make videos, it was that I didn't think I could. Instead, it's not inspire so much as that feeling of where I watch a video and I want to respond, or I want to have the same kind of fun you're having, or whatnot. And a lot of those channels, the channels that do that for me now, will be a lot of the channels that do it for you as well. Right? Maybe not. I mean, there's lots of BookTube channels out there. My go-to channels, like my partner in crime, Michael K. Vaughan, or Sarah at The Bookish Knitter, Ollie at Criminali, lots of other channels too that I watch them and think, okay, what are you reading today? And gee, I want to make videos today. If that's inspiration, there are lots of channels that do that for me. Then question number 10, and we've reached the end here with question number 10. Share the love. It can be challenging to find your audience. Name 3 booktubers who you think need more hype. I want to point out for this challenge, or this prompt or whatever, that no one needs any hype. The 21st century, and especially social media, has conditioned people to think they want hype. That is only training. You have been trained to feel that. You should untrain yourself. Hype is bad. Hype is cheap. Hype is tinny. Hype is extremely self-centered. And you've been trained to prioritize it. You've been trained to like the dopamine hit of the attention of what these platforms give you. As a goal and a good in and of itself. It shouldn't be a goal, and it is not a good. Think about, those of you who have been paying attention, think about the Naomi King, Daniel Green saga that we all watched. How much of that saga on both sides was entirely generated by a dopamine addiction? People who don't know when to shut up, who don't know when not to make a video. You've been trained to be that way. You can untrain yourself, and you should. So none of these channels deserve hype, but I did list some channels here in the notebook here. New channel, You Could Be Reading More. Wonderful, chatty, very personal, very friendly, very Australian. Robin Song Reads, who just recently made a video, but has made a handful of videos. Another brand new booktuber who's putting their feet in the water. I want to shout out these channels. Of course, I want you to go and see if you like them. There aren't many videos to look at, but also, in terms of slightly more established, Randy Ray, the literate Texan, I should have 10,000 subscribers. He actually survived the Grim Reaper in order to keep making BookTube videos. I'll leave links to these channels in case you want to go and what's the word? Give them some love. Who else do I have here? Alyssa, Nerdy Nurse Reads. Lots and lots of fun. David Novak. David Novak Reads Poetry. Lots and lots of fun. We actually have a published poet in our midst. Always worth subscribing to. Also, Adventures in Literature. A fun channel that is enlivened by the presence of birds. Lousy, stinking, lice-ridden, disgusting bites. He has parakeets, I think is what they are, that have free range and often visit him while he's talking and making videos. And as is the way with parrots, parakeets, and cockatoos and whatnot, they seem to know a lot of what's going on and find it rather amusing. His parakeets will often watch what he's doing and pay attention to it, and that livens up the video. But he's also fun to listen to, and so many others. Oh my God, I could go on and on with channels that deserve love. In fact, maybe I will. In fact, when I post this video, once I'm done with edits, what a nightmare, am I right? Up top. Once I post this video, maybe I'll add a bunch of other links to the end here of other people that deserve you can never do too much of that deserve your attention. But anyway, I've gone on quite long enough on this tag. This is a bio tag, so I hope you all do it. Tell, not so much me, although it is me because I'm nosy, but tell your new viewers. You're getting new viewers. Tell your new viewers who you are. Give them a little idea of who you are. Mine took a lot longer because I managed to pack a lot of living into 28 years, I guess. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.